Hello, so what we're going to see together is how to make your Teams application working on mobile devices, so either an Android or an iPhone one, using the Teams Toolkit V5. So we're going to use the Teams Toolkit to create a new application from scratch. You can see that you have now various options. So bots and message extension are out of the box compatible with mobile testing and debugging because basically this is backend code, if you like. And we are using tunneling technology named the VS Dev Tunnel out of the box, where a public URL will be created to reference your local host logic and be exposed to any device. In the case of tab, we wanted to let this step being enabled manually for various reasons regarding the developer experience. So we're going to do that together. So let's create a tab. You have various type of tab available. The basic one is really vanilla code, so no framework at all, just plain HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. This is the best way to start any app from scratch if you don't want to let us choose a framework for you. The second one is using React, one of the most popular framework with Fluent UI. So Fluent UI is our Microsoft design language. So it's the best start if you like to create an application that looks like Microsoft application. And the dashboard one is the one we're going to use together to create a dashboard one using Fluent. If you're a SharePoint developer, you can also use SPFX as a starting point. Let's start with the dashboard application. I'm going to use JavaScript, I'm going to use a default folder, and then let's call it test dashboard mobile. So it's going to create a new project for me. Then I will be able to deploy now pressing F5. So when you press F5 using the Teams Toolkit, it's going to register the application for you, deploy that with a specific manifest to the Teams tenant. So the first time you press F5, it took a bit of time because you need to do an npm install of your application to get all the package and make them ready for the app. So I'm going to press F5 and we're going to wait a little bit, and I'm going to fast forward the video to not wait too much. Let's do that. So as you can see, the application has been deployed, or is currently being deployed. So the way to deploy it on your mobile, you first need to deploy that into the desktop web application. So I'm going to add it. So we cannot right now deploy directly to the mobile for you. So you have to deploy as a desktop app. You see that it's running fine. Now, if I'm taking my iPhone that is on the left, you should see that there is a new application available at the bottom left with a new badge. And now if I'm opening it, it won't work for a specific reason. Like if you open the current tab on a different tab, you see that I'm using localhost, and of course my iPhone cannot have access to my localhost there. So what we need to do is to change the endpoint to create a public endpoint to resolve that. So let's see how to do that together. So we're going to stop the debugging. And we have documentation for you, obviously, to explain you how to debug for mobile. So if you go inside the Microsoft Learning doc, you will have how to prepare an app using the toolkit in debug your team app, and you will have a section debug for mobile there. So you will have access to the URL in the description of this video, of course. And then you need to follow the steps. So first step is to simply add the local tunnel task. So I'm going to copy this line. And the Teams Toolkit now is using something pretty cool, is you have now access to everything being done by the toolkit. So this is not like a black box anymore. So you have, for instance, the current steps being used. So it's going to validate that you have prerequisites in place, like npm install, everything set up. You're going to provision The provision is going to take the URL to create the local manifest in our case, deploy that to the Teams tenant, and then finally start the application locally that will be used by the team tenant. So what we need to do is something in between. We need to add a task that after the validation will start the local tunnel, so it will take the localhost URL and map that to a public URL, and the rest of the step will be the very same one. But we need also to create this task. So this task is there. So you need to copy paste this one. Go after the validate task. So let's add it just after this one. Okay, and now we need to continue following the documentation. We have another one to do is to go inside the Teams local YAML file. So let's go there. And we need to do two things in our case. First is to remove the localhost URL set in the environment. So let's remove that as specified in the doc. And finally, as we are using React there, if we like to have a dynamic reload, including on mobile, we need to add this property in this specific part of the YAML file. So let's go there. This is at the very end of the file. You see, this is the same one. So let's add this property. So basically, just about following the documentation, adding, using a task at the beginning, removing the specific environment variable that was set to localhost, and add this property to support hot reload for React and be able to modify your code and have that immediately on your devices. So now that we done that, you can start debugging again. So it will be much faster this time because the npm install was already done. So it's basically just about recreating the new manifest, publish that again, and also recompile the React code potentially. So it will be much faster this time. So let's wait for it to run inside first the desktop app. And what we're going to check in the desktop app is to be sure that now we are using the dev tunnel, VS dev tunnel, and not anymore the local URL we were using in the past. So it should soon start the local server. What we can see in the between is that now we have successfully a tunnel being in place there. So it's going to be this URL that's going to, we can see there effectively that this public URL will be mapped to this previous localhost. So we should now see this URL being used in our Teams application. Now, we should wait a little bit more. Here it is. So we need to register again the application. So this new application should have a new manifest, and this is what we're going to check together. Maybe something, a hint I can give you. You see that I have the current version being set there, which is available inside my manifest. So if I'm going into my app package, we can see that this is the value being used there. You see? So I would advise you to maybe change it to be sure that you're using the latest version if you have if you're skeptical about that. So let's add it and let's check that together. You see that we have an error there because it's being explained in the documentation, and this is why I wanted to show you that. But if I'm opening that into a new URL, you see that this time I'm going to be prompted to log in to verify and authenticate that I'm allowed to use this public URL. Because this public URL is public, so it means that it will have access to your local machine in a way. So maybe you would like to be sure that not anybody have access to your local machine. So the VS Dev tunnel by default is going to use some secure tunnel with authentication. So if I'm using the account that I'm using in the Teams Toolkit to authenticate to the dev tenant, I will be able to access to this URL. I'm going to be warned that I will use this specific dev tunnel. And now it works. So if you like to remove this part, what you need to do is to modify the private mode to public mode. So let's go back in the task there. You see that for now it's private, so let's switch that to public. Let's also modify the manifest to add a minor change. Stop the debugging. And now what we can do is to do that again, run it from scratch. So it's going to recompile everything once again and launch the new tunnel. This time I shouldn't be forced to authenticate on the tunnel because it's public. So it's really to show you that if you should be cautious when you're using this technology. It's super convenient because it's going to expose your logic from the localhost on devices that need to access you on public URL. You see that this time I've changed the versioning, so I'm sure that I'm going to use this new logic. I'm going to add it. You see that this time I still have the warning message, but now I can access to the dev tunnel, and this is working. So now let's give it a try on the mobile. So if I'd like to go elsewhere and load the same application on mobile, it's still not working because there is a caching issue this time. So the mobile is still using the previous version of the app, so it's still using as a reference the localhost URL in the manifest. So there is one way to change that. So you need to close the application. You need to go inside the settings, search for Teams, and you will have the option to clear app data there, as you can see, bottom of the screen. You enable this specific checkbox. And the next time you would start Teams, it will restart it on a fully fresh new session. So let's now go on Teams. Let's open it. You will have this type of screen that will indicate you that it has been loading in a new session. I'm going to load now this app, and you see now I've got this screen that's going to warn me that is going to use a public tunnel. And this time it works. So you can see that now I've got both of my applications working in the web desktop version and on the mobile. Last demonstration is to show you that, let's imagine I would like to modify something on the page without being forced to redeploy all the time. I can use hot reload. So let's go in the source. For that, we have the list widget, for instance, there, that is similar to your list, that is mapping to your list. I'm going there. I see that this is your list being used here. So let's change by your new list. I'm going to do Control S. You see that it's going to compile. And is that change over there the title and also in the web page. So this is everything I wanted to show you, basically, is how really to debug on this type of device. Obviously, it works in the same way on Android, and you can have multiple devices connected to your local machine to do multiple device debugging at the same time. In the next video, I will show you how to debug now the JavaScript code on a remote device on Android using the USB cable from the DevTool. See you soon. Thanks.